What is your whole view on Parihara when it comes to Jyotisham? What is its role? What are the typical things that you prescribe to people who come to you? How does it work?
Yeah, so Parihara remedial measures is another important thing, important part of astrology. So if you say this is your problem, it doesn't really help the person. If you say it will continue for 2 more years, it doesn't really help the person. It may help. It will give some. It will prepare the person to basically be there for the long haul instead of expecting some quick result and being disappointed. So having some diagnosis of and prognosis of when things may improve will help. But really, to accelerate that process, what can you do? That will be really helpful. So there are various remedial measures, and obviously one of those is doing various rituals like doing uh, sadhana with specific mantras, and then also doing homa, things like homas, going to specific temples. Those things do help. But there are also for people who are not inclined into, who are not ritual oriented, there are also things like helping other people, because any new karma that you do, like I said earlier, it will alter the pipeline of your karmas, and it may change the way things play out. Your previous karmas will play out currently. So from that point of view, every karma you put in, whether it's helping somebody or doing a sadhana, everything is useful. So some people may suppose your Mercury is problematic. So you may want to, for Mercury it is Vishnu, so you may want to chant Vishnu Sahasram, or Mercury also shows knowledge. So maybe you want to make a big donation to a library or help an academic institution. So there are various approaches, and one beauty of what our rishis taught is they never said, "Thou shalt do this." They basically said, "You can do this, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this." They always gave umpteen options. Rishis were never really rigid in their attitude. They gave so many options. So there are a lot of options, and astrology does, the horoscope does tell you what are the areas. Like, is it better to help somebody living in a slum, or somebody who's maintaining a library, or maybe for somebody helping the police will be a better remedy. So we can give some insight into what kind of humanistic activities will be more conducive, will balance your karmas basically better, and also what kind of deity will be more helpful to you, either Vishnu or Kumaraswamy.
Uh, how do you reconcile going to specific temples and visiting specific deities, right? How does that, with your scientific approach, what do you think happens?
Various temples have different kinds of energy. If you take a Subramanya temple, it has a different kind of energy compared to if you take a Venkateswara temple, it has a different kind of energy. So what our rishis did is they mapped various energies that are there at different places and times with the planetary combinations. And the other thing is the specific kind of rishis or yogis may have done sadhana at a particular place. For example, if you take Rameshwaram, Patanjali did a lot of sadhana there. Like that, there are places where specific kind of sadhana was done. So accordingly, there is a specific kind of energy there. And if you can correlate that energy with planetary combinations, you know what kind of planetary energy your mind is under control of at a particular point of time. The problems that you're facing is because your mind is under, your consciousness is grabbed by a particular graha or a particular graha combination. So, what is the kind of energy that is required to break the shackles, or not even break the shackles, direct that energy in a more positive way? The same energy that is clogging your consciousness can basically open up and make you do something productive if you direct it properly. And for that, you may need a specific kind of energy. And all these energies were mapped, and they basically are seen from the horoscope. But one thing I want to say here, all the principles of how to interpret combinations in the horoscope to see which devatas are more suitable for people, and which kind of sadhanas and which kind of temples are more suitable for people, are not fully understood, because again there's a lot of corruption in this kind of, all the subtle and spiritual aspects of astrology have been corrupted in the last 2 millennia, especially the last millennium. So we are rediscovering by going back to the teachings of rishis. There is another important point I want to make. The other way, apart from altering your existing pipeline of karmas and delaying some bad karmas from giving their result and accelerating some good karmas to give their results, these remedial measures also help in another very, very important thing. The thing with the karmic pipeline is when you experience the results of your previous karma, obviously nature has to choose somebody as an instrument to give the fruit of your karma to you. So your wife or your boss or your friend or somebody will be used as an instrument to give the good or bad results to you. So when somebody does something to you, of course, if they identify with that action, that becomes a new karma for them, but that's their headache. As far as I am concerned, I am getting the fruit of my own karma. Instead of accepting it as what God is giving me for my own karma, I start thinking this person is bad, he's mean to me, he's so bad. So there is new action, mental action, sometimes even physical action that basically further adds to the karmic pipeline. In other words, while facing the fruits of previous karmas, you engage in new bad karmas because you resist those karmas and you are unhappy with those karmas and you want to take revenge on somebody for that. So it becomes a new karma in your pipeline. So at least when you do sadhana, it creates a state of mind where you can accept the results of previous fruits without complicating that karmic pipeline. So that is another very important point that people forget.
Okay. See, every unit of time we use in Jyotisha corresponds to some astronomical cycle. So, how did this concept of a week, Saptaha, come into the Indian framework?
Okay, it is related to the grahas. But when I use the graha, people understand them as planet. But planet is again a modern word. And for example, sun is not a planet, moon is not a planet. The word we use in Sanskrit is graha. Graha literally means graha iti graha, the one that grabs. So, with their experience, with their direct perception, rishis realized that various objects in celestial objects in the skies that are close to us have an impact on how our consciousness functions. They grab hold of our consciousness in different ways. So sun is not a planet, he's a star, and then moon is a satellite of Earth, and then there are five planets. Uh, Saturn, Jupiter, Mercury, Venus, Mars, these planets. So these are the seven grahas that were identified as rishis as having a strong influence on our consciousness by resonating with various aspects of our consciousness. Actually, sun is our resonates with our soul, moon is our mind. That is why our mental states, our soul is always stable. It may see sun, he shines for half of the day and he doesn't shine for half of the day, but he's always there. He doesn't basically have phases. Similarly, our soul, it may express itself or it may not, it may be remain hidden, but it is always there, fully resplendent and giving light to our mind. But the mind, it is on and off. One day it is happy, one day it is sad. So that is why our minds resonate with moon. Our spirit of action, spirit of doing something aggressive or energy, basically, that is basically resonating with Mars. Our spirit of learning and understanding the world around you resonates with Mercury. Our wisdom and knowing right from wrong within our consciousness resonates with Jupiter. And our sense of happiness, being happy with what is around us, resonates with Venus. And our sense of working hard resonates with Saturn. So they map various aspects of our consciousness to the seven planets, and then basically they came up with a cycle of 7 days which are associated with the seven planets. Not only this, there are 24 hours in a day, and these 24 hours in a day are associated with these planets in the orbital order, in the order in which in the decreasing order of speed with respect to Earth. Saturn is the slowest, then Jupiter, then Mars. So there is an order, logical order. In that order, the planetary hours are controlled. And when you do 24 modulo 7, you see that 24 modulo 7 is 3. So when you take that order, Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Sun, etc., you take every three planet, you get the ruler of the weekday. So you can actually, I won't go into the details and bore you now, but you can derive Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, then Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, exact order based on the modulo 3 thing.
This is based from Indian Jyotisha, or where did this
This is
come
based
from?
on Indian Jyotish principles. Well, actually, I want to take a step back here. Forget about weekdays. There are a lot of aspects in Indian astrology which are found in various other astrologies. If you look, but the thing is, nobody has everything Indian astrology has. If you take what Indian rishis start, it is like a superset. And if you take Greek astrology, they have concepts of dashas, etc. They have some samhita concepts like we do. And if you take Chinese astrology, they have some nakshatra based principles, nakshatra concepts. Similarly, when you go to Mayan astrology, if you go to Persian astrology, all of them have certain good concepts which actually do work to some extent. But the thing is, they're all like small subsets, and Indian astrology is the superset of everything. So I will not be surprised if all whole world was connected like 6,000, 7,000 years back, and after a great war like the Mahabharata war of 3000, around 3100 BC, after a great war, people basically lost contact and civilization basically was split into different islands of knowledge, and certain aspects of knowledge based on who was the main person there, certain aspects of knowledge basically flourished in that part of the world. So I will not be surprised if something like that happened.
Okay. Do you think the a rashtra or a country should use Jyotisha? So, should India use Jyotisha to make big decisions on policy, on when and how to go in for war? And do you actually think that Modi ji used, the dates for lockdown and opening and all that? You think it has any correlation with astrological significance?
I am not in the know of who is guiding Modi ji and what he's doing. So I don't know if Modi ji himself looks at astrology or not. But the thing is, I know for a fact that our kings in the old days, they did have court astrologers who were very learned and who had a holistic understanding of astrology, and they did help. Like I said earlier, astrology was used in Ayurveda, Tantra, Yoga, etc. Obviously, it can be used in Rajniti also. You can have an anticipation of how economy is going to function for change with time, whether the good times or bad times were in store, so that you can take some preventive measures instead of basically reacting after the fact. So you can know things about economy. You can know things about what your neighbors and other countries are up to, when somebody may engage in an aggression. For example, in 1998, I believe, before the Kargil War, a couple of months before the Kargil War, in a magazine called Express Storyteller, I wrote a magazine in which I wrote after May 18 until July or so, there is a strong chance that India will face an aggression from a foreign country. But this time, world will support India, and this will result in India winning. And actually, Kargil War happened, I think, May 25 or so that year. So there are clear principles in our astrology that can tell you some major event that may happen. So I see nothing wrong. As a matter of fact, it is highly desirable for the political leaders, to make use of astrology. But unfortunately, because astrology has a stigma of being a superstition, and part of it is deserved because there are a lot of quacks. For every one good astrologer, there are 100 quacks. And though they are really commercial and they just want to mint money from people, they're very unscrupulous. So that is why, and also really good people really did not get into this subject. They got into modern education. So all the holistic connections were lost. So there is some justification to it. But given that astrology is on the cusp of a renaissance, and we are seeing a renaissance for the last decade, I think it will be a good idea for countries, and especially for India, to encourage astrology, encourage astrologers, and make sure that astrology flourishes and they benefit from that flourishing knowledge of astrology. It will be a very good idea.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here and also hit the bell icon to make sure you get notified. To donate, please click this button.